Some of you may know about a challenge coin. It's from the Joint Veterans Council. It has the emblem of the American Legion, the DFW from Newville, Pennsylvania. A big thank you, it says, and on the back it has Veterans Day speaker, Thomas E. Griffey, 2014. Tom, this is not much. Thank you, sir. At this time, I asked any veteran in the audience, please stand. If you're already standing, raise your hand. And Pete, please stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. We always Veterans Day, we always ask any veteran or a family member of a veteran or anyone who would just like to say a few words about their friends, family, or anybody in the military. Please stand up, say their name, what they're doing. You're welcome right now. I happen to have two nephews. One's just came back from Afghanistan myself. He's in the Air Force. 6 months Afghanistan, he just came back and he's stationed in Alaska. I have another nephew who's a Marine Corps aviator. He hasn't deployed yet, but trust me, he's flying helicopters, and guess where he'll be soon. So that's my little story.
Yeah, one note for someone to remember. My mother had 5 sons, and we all served, and she wrote one hell of a lot of letters in that time. She probably deserves a pension of her own. We can't forget the moms who stand by while we were out there doing our thing. Very well.
Anybody else? Nice words. Don't forget the parents. Exactly.
Judy and I have a granddaughter serving in the Air Force, and she's in South Korea. Tell
her thank you for her service. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Hazel.
My youngest son, Robbie, is with the DoD division at Eglin Air Force Base. He's an instructor down there. He's right out of high school.
Good for him. You ought to be proud of him.
My oldest grandson is following his brother today. He came back to thank Easter from his deployment overseas. He flies helicopters.
Very good. American heroes. Anybody else? Feel free. Yes, sir.
Randy, I have a granddaughter, Lauren Elizabeth Wheeler. She's the daughter of my one twin, Ted, who is now serving with the Old Guard in D.C.
Good for her.
I have a husband, Ed Sinkvist, and his 2 brothers, Tom and Jim Sinkvist, who all served in the military during the Vietnam era. And right now, my one brother-in-law, Tom, is suffering with Agent Orange, cancer of the lung, so he needs your prayers.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a grandson that's in the National Guard.
Good for him. You ought to be proud of him. Very proud. Yes, ma'am.
May I mention Denny Holtz, who is a cousin of mine, and he served just a lifetime, but he had to leave the service because of MS. And he is not well now, but coming home this Friday, this will be his last time home to Newville.
I know that. I know Denny. Yes, sir.
In January of 1975, my ship, the USS Guam and the USS Tripoli, had a Liberty launch run over by a freighter in Barcelona, Spain. We lost 52 Marines.
Thank you, sir.
just wanted to thank the speaker today. I happen to know that Kenny has family here today, and I know it meant a lot to them to hear the kind words.
Thank you. Yes.
I had a brother Harry retired from the Air Force. He was responsible for me enlisting in the Navy. I have 2 nephews retired from the Navy. I have a great nephew getting ready to join the Army.
Proud heritage. Yes, sir.
We have Kenny's brother here. Ray.
Yes, sir.
Somebody mentioned about mothers before. I just want to recognize the women and men with the hardest job in the military, military spouses.
I echo that.
I have a friend, a neighbor, James McDermott, whose brother died in North Korean prison camps. This is his brother, James.
Yes, sir. We're going to recognize him in a little bit. Sometimes it just needs to be, let it off your chest sometimes just to speak, and I think that's what we're doing today. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
My brother that served in Vietnam, and had a son that was in, well, my brother was in the Air Force, and my son was in the Army, and he served for me.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a step nephew who's in the Air Force. He flies. He's captain of a fighter jet. He's going to be retiring after 20 years service in the Air Force.
You ought to be proud of that. I can't say I'm a little partial to that. That's fine. Yes, sir.
I'm the nephew of James Hocker, and although he never really spoke much about his service to our country, I know that he loved our country, and I'd just like to thank him, the family members, and all veterans around the world just for their service to our country, and I really appreciate it. You're in our prayers.
Thank you for those kind words. Jim Hocker was a true military hero. It'll never be forgotten. Yes, sir.
A young man from our community. He attends our church. Bradley Legg just finished his basic training for the Marines, and now I'm not sure where he's actually at right now, but keep him in prayer.
Yes, will. Nobody else? Okay. At this time, the Joint Veterans Council is going to try something new. We're not going to try, we're going to do it, but we're kind of going to wing it because we haven't done it before. But let me just tell you a little background here. The chairman of the Joint Veterans Council, Miss Patricia Reed here, she orchestrated this whole program and done the research on the 10 veterans, local hometown heroes, did the research and worked hard to get these banners hung and prominently displayed through the town here, starting in Memorial Day. And we just had them taken down by the Newville borough, and we will present those banners to those 10 family members today. At this time, I'd like Pat Reed to come forward. She will be assisted by Todd Wheeler with the banners. Pat Reed, I will announce the name. We're going to go in alphabetical order, so we do not slight any. person. The first hometown hero we want to recognize is Harold E. Barrick, Private First Class, United States Army, Vietnam, killed in action April 8, 1968. His parents are Mrs. Sadie Barrick and the late John Barrick. Would the family members of Harold E. Barrick please stand? The next hometown veteran we want to recognize is I. Glenn Baldosser. They had TP-PO3. I had to look that up. Torpedo Man Mate, Petty Officer 3, U.S. Navy, World War II. Would the family of the late Mr. and Mrs. George Baldosser please stand? The next one is Kenneth L. Dever, Sergeant, United States Army, Vietnam, killed in action February 10th, 1968. His parents are the late Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Dever. Would the family member of Kenneth Dever please stand? The next hero we will recognize is Wilbur G. Hamilton, Seaman Second Class, United States Navy, World War II, killed in action, lost at sea, June 9th, 1944. His parents are the late Mr. and Mrs. Clarence H. Hamilton. Would the family members of Wilbur G. Hamilton please stand? Next one is Timothy L. Hazlett, Sergeant, United States Army, Iraq, killed in action November 15th, 2003. His parents are Mr. and Mrs. Guy Hazlett. Mrs. Hazlett, would you please stand? Your family. Our next hero, Dennis R. Lehman, Corporal, United States Army, Vietnam, killed in action, November 21st, 1966. His parents are the late Mr. and Mrs. Donald E. Lehman. Would the family of Dennis R. Lehman please stand and be recognized? Our next hometown hero is Robert P. McDermott, Corporal, United States Army, Korean, POW, died in captivity, June 14, 1951. His parents are the late Mr. and Mrs. Joseph McDermott. Would the family of Robert P. McDermott please stand to be recognized? next hometown hero is Nicholas B. Morrison, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps, Iraq, killed in action, August 13th, 2004. His parents are Mr. and Mrs. Joey L. Morrison Sr. Would the family of Nicholas B. Morrison please rise and be recognized? Our next hero, Randall D. Sugart, Sergeant First Class, United States Army, Somalia, killed in action, October 3rd, 1993. His parents are Mr. Herbert Sugart and the late Mrs. Louise Sugart. Would the family of Randy D. Sugart please stand and be recognized? And our final hero this year, Franklin D. Wheeler, Staff Sergeant, United States Army Air Forces, World War II, missing in action, buried at sea, November 26, 1943. His parents are the late Mr. and Mrs. Harry B. Wheeler. Would the family of Franklin D. Wheeler please rise and be recognized? Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes that ceremony with the hometown heroes. We are planning on doing another 10 next year. So I think it's well worthwhile. Again, I'd like to thank Pat Reed for her hard work and dedication on allowing that to happen and just making it happen, and look at the turnout we get for that. So thank you, Pat. At this time, I ask those who can stand, please stand for our final ceremonies of placing of the wreath, the flowers, and the rifle salute and taps. So please stand. At this time, I'll have placement of the wreath by the President of American Legion Auxiliary, Phyllis DeShane. At this time, the Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Bob Gilbert, will place the flowers on the monument. We'll now have the rifle salute followed by taps. this time, Pastor Beck, would you please come forward with the benediction? About 3,000 years ago, God spoke to the nation of Israel. Israel was a nation decimated by war. The finest and the best were carried away into captivity and exile. And God, through his prophet Jeremiah, said this, "For I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper and not harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." Dear ones, God says those words to us today, and he uses various means to make those words come true. We've gathered here today to honor our veterans, and I firmly believe that we are both the plan God has for our nation. We enjoy our freedom, we enjoy our prosperity because of the men and women who have served tirelessly. Go in peace, not in the peace that the world talks about, but the peace that we have from God Almighty through the sacrifice and the service of our veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Veterans Day ceremony. The Joint Veterans Council would like to thank you for your attending today's event. I ask each one of you to continue to thank our veterans for their service. Let's not forget those who are in harm's way protecting our great nation and the freedoms we know. All participants are invited to go to the local VFW for light lunch, refreshments, and fellowship. Thank you.